We're live.
Okay, this is May 22nd, 2026, the Board of Psychology meeting. We will have Olelo
A brief video, yeah.
show us the brief video.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on, as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
We will now call the Board of Psychology meeting to order, and I will be doing roll call. For those that are in this room, please indicate if you are present when I call your name out. Dr. Stephen Taketa.
Present.
Dr. Sherry Takushi
Present.
Isara.
Present.
Dr. Jeff Stern.
I'm here, and there's no one else in the room with me.
Thank you. And Dr. Sean Scanlon is not present today. Next on the order is the review and approval of the board meeting minutes. If we could take a look at that, and they are in the order that was indicated. So if you have any comments or corrections to each of the minutes, please indicate so. And I'm going to be starting off with the review of the minutes from the 3/7/25 executive session. Any comments or corrections? If not, I have a couple that I'll mention. Yes.
So if it's a substantive comment, because these are executive session minutes, then you shouldn't do it in a public meeting. You should go into executive session because otherwise that information becomes public.
I
If it's
So
just,
is it a
if
substantive
it's just
or is it?
typos and spelling or something.
If it's typo spelling, but and one part a person's name is missing, would that be substantive?
Is it the applicant's name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So it's okay that we don't go into executive session?
Yeah, because the applicant's name was on the
Yeah.
regular meeting.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, thank you for that. I have for the executive session, page 2, if we could refer to that. And license, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down under examination and licensure for Dr. Hill. I think it should be indicating to search her license online instead of in offline.
Sorry, what page was that again?
Yeah. Dr. Hill is licensed in Wisconsin and submitted instruction to the board certificate for license and delete in online.
What page?
Delete,
Oh, page 2.
page 2. So just.
Okay, okay, I got it.
it.
Okay.
And then we have, on page 10, under Space Conrad. And this is under education. Where it says there is a discrepancy, and then it goes on and with a PhD in counseling psychology from Assumption University of Thailand, which is not AP, it should have been, was not APA accredited at that time. Instead of is.
Okay. Got it.
And then on page 12. At the very top, under recommendation, based on the information found in doctors, and we don't have the person's name if you indicated as Dr. Conrad's
Okay.
application.
Okay.
And then under David Lee, towards the very end, you see, attend the next meeting to ask for additional.
Okay.
Do we have to ask for approval with the minor corrections for each one, or can we go through them?
Do them all together.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
This
Any
is a-
other comments or?
Just as a point of information, I kind of was trying to get my hand or my brain around edits and the ones that are non-substantive. And I'm wondering if we can't create a mechanism for taking care of these non-substantive corrections either prior to or after the meeting so that they don't take up time during the meeting to address. I have similar ones, June. I'm just thinking we were trying to move towards that as a way of kind of managing that issue.
I'm open to suggestions if people are willing to stay to after the meeting. But it might make sense to do it, I don't know, before the meeting, because we have to approve everything.
Yeah, I mean, I can always, so according to Sunshine, we have to have the meeting minutes posted by the draft by 40 days after the meeting. So usually we're getting the meeting minutes up to that last minute, but I'm trying to get on the process of doing them soon after the meeting. So then I can send a draft to a member to make sure that we don't have these non-substantive issues.
Okay, but then you'll be under the gun to get it out by a certain time.
Yeah.
Usually the meetings, minutes don't come up to us sometimes less than a week before the meeting, so.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not sure how
So
you
that's,
want to handle
well,
that.
I've had some work adjustments, so I've been able to have more time.
Okay, so the proposal is that once the meeting minutes get drafted, then people can look at it
I
ahead
can
of.
forward them to, like 2 members. Be the
Okay.
officers, so you and Dr. Stern, and then you guys can review and make sure the non-substantive are.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't have to be us, but.
Sure, yeah. It could be like that.
Okay, can people, give their impressions or comments about that? And we're moving to, we're proposing moving to another process.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand for efficiency reasons you want to do that. You just have to be cautious in that it doesn't turn into like a conversation, because that would be outside the meeting and that would be a sunshine law issue. So it can't be a back and forth. I mean, just sort of in the big picture, keep in mind that the minutes have to be a true and accurate reflection of what occurred, but it doesn't have to be verbatim. So if there's a clear typo or something missing, but as far as stylistic changes, you really don't have to do that if the minutes as they're written accurately reflect what occurred in the meeting, right?
Okay, so if we miss if a word is missing, just leave it.
You can, I mean, if you think it doesn't make it clear, then you should put it in there, right? But if it's a a clearer reflection of what happened. That's what the law requires.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it does, but then we wouldn't have to wait. And we could just do it during the meeting, right? Yes. Right?
Ideally, with the initial review of minutes, previewing of minutes by two members, it would be minimal, the number of these kinds of errors, and even less common to have one that's substantive, where missing a word or a pronoun being incorrect significantly changes or alters the the minutes. So is that what you're saying?
Yes, so it's I think the language is something like it has to be a true and accurate reflection of the actions undertaken or what occurred at the meeting, but it does not have to be verbatim.
Thank you.
I could just make sure that I'm getting them out sooner.
Okay, for people to review,
Mhm.
and then, but I think if someone's name is missing, then that would be separate. And these have been met.
Yeah, you want to make, so the idea is that somebody reading the minutes will understand what happened at the meeting, right?
Right,
So those kind of things we want to correct.
okay,
It's just, again, if you need to discuss something more substantive about the executive session minutes, if the reason for that
got it.
confidentiality still remains, you don't want to discuss it out in the open meeting. You have to go into
Okay,
exec, talk about
got
it.
it. Thank you, and that's a different line of thought that we've been proceeding on. Okay. So you'll just circulate the minutes to people, and then during and give you some, no, well. Once you circulate it, then it can be reviewed, and then at our actual meeting, if there's substantive parts to changes or corrections, we can still do that, but that should shorten the time. Okay.
I only have one additional, and which is when someone's name is either missing or misspelled. I mean, it's not substantive, but I think for the record, you want to have everybody's name correctly spelled. And we have one instance in another set of minutes where Dr. Scanlon's name is with an O instead of an A. That's
Okay.
one of my corrections. And I think that would be substantive just because it's a name.
Okay. I agree with you. Okay, so do we need to vote on that, or can we just agree?
Just like, you can just instruct me. and then-
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Then why don't we move on then, to the next set of minutes, October 3rd, the open session? Are there any kinds of comments, corrections to that?
I have, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Dr. Scanlon on page 6.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Page-
The other two are
wait,
more
wait.
like slight missing words. The word to, the word then, non-substantive. If you'd like me to share them, since
Right.
it's only two, I don't mind. The first one
Okay.
is at the bottom of page 2. It says the board voted unanimously to grant. You all see that?
You're talking about October 3rd minutes on page 2?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, where under executive session?
No, this is meeting minutes from the October 3rd meeting. At the bottom of page 2, it says the board voted unanimously. Where is that?
Okay, I don't
Are
see
you
that.
sure is that March?
Okay,
October 03.
October over 03 open minutes, I don't see that.
I don't see it either. I'm trying to figure this out. Yeah, the very last line. On a motion by Vice Chair Stern, seconded by Dr. Takushi Isara, the board voted unanimously grant the extension.
Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, and then on page 5, around the middle, it's the conversation then shifted to the.
Right, instead of the shifted. Yes, I
Yeah.
got that one too.
Okay. Got that.
That's it. Those are the two, plus Dr. Scanlon's name on page 6. Thank you.
Okay, 6.
All right. Two more set.
Wow.
One more set, sorry.
Okay, the next one would be the March 23rd open session. If we could take a look at that. I just had the minor one on page 5, second line. Dr. Judy Steinman, who as provided, this was provided.
Okay.
How about anyone else in terms of edits, corrections? Okay, let's move on to the next one, which would be the March 23rd executive session minutes. Sorry.
Very brief.
I have something for page 2 under Lauren Haruno. And I think this is substantive. It was noted Dr. Haruno's postdoctoral verification reflected only 18 hours. It should have been 1,800.
Great.
Instead of the 19 hours should have been 1,900.
Okay.
I think both would be substantive.
Well, then so you know, before you say it, we
Yeah.
should go into exec session.
Okay, well,
So-
can I get comment?
No,
on that?
at this point
Yeah.
though, we just have two numbers and there's no discussion. There's nothing in the open session right now about the discussion. So if that's the breadth of your edit, then let's just move forward.
Okay,
Kim, I have a point of information about that related to what are the requirements for licensure now.
Okay, then we should go in exec session.
That's exec session, correct?
Yeah.
Can I make a
Okay.
request to go into exec session to discuss it?
okay, can I have a second?
So-
Okay, let's go into executive session to discuss that item.
Thank you. My exec session question has to do with.
Wait.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Sorry.
Slow down.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have to move us, and then I gotta tell Lola.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
So now we're back into open session. And can we make a motion now to accept all of these minutes that we have reviewed with the corrections that were made? Okay, so I so move. Can I have a second?
I will second.
We will have to have a vote.
Okay, can we have a voice, for those that agree, if you could say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those are opposed or abstain? Okay, barring none, the motion is approved. Okay, we went past that agenda item. Where? I'm looking for that. Okay, next item would be adjudicatory matters. And so if we could,
At this time, you'd want to recess to
yeah.
adjudicatory.
Yes. Can we recess in order to, go into the item number 3 on the agenda, adjudicatory matters?
Just a minute to switch us back.
And put all this together.
Okay, we're good.
Just let us know when.
We're ready.
Oh, okay. I won't be. Okay. Okay, moving on to legislative session. We have two items that are listed, prescriptive authority and the House Bill 1889 relating to school psychologists. Could you?
Could you also ask for public testimony?
Okay, is there any public testimony for the legislative session items that were listed?
No, Chair. No public testimony.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so legislative session was a little busy for psychology. There was a lot of related bills, but nothing particular to the chapter. So starting with SB 847, relating to psychologists. This allows qualified psychologists limited authority to prescribe psychotropic medications to patients under the care of the psychologist who is being supervised by psychiatrists. So this bill became a pilot project, and it might have been that from the beginning. This was, you maybe think of it as sort of like a capstone on years of bills being introduced to create the prescriptive authority, or a pilot project, or some other kind of limited prescriptive authority that, like, say, limits it by population size. So that would like reduce it down to like Mali, for example, but or and the other islands that have lower population. So through all those decades of working it out, it came to be in this pilot project. I think it got a lot of force from Kauai itself, requesting this. So a lot of details are still to be, I think, ironed out. The primary thing to know, though, is that SHPTA, which is like the government entity in charge of like healthcare development for the state, they are the lead on this pilot project. So one thing that I will have to do on behalf of the board is reach out to them to find out how we're going to coordinate this project, because we ourselves are not in charge.
What was the
Oh,
the area
SHPTA.
shipped,
Sorry, let me get, that's the
the
acronym.
entity? Okay.
And it's the State Health Planning and Development Agency.
Health planning and development, right?
Yeah. And they were pretty much at every hearing for every healthcare bill, providing guidance.
Okay.
One of the things that they did support was this under the care of a psychiatrist. So they had specified, I think, from the through amendment, that a psychiatrist would be managing the prescribing psychologists. I think initially it was just physician, but they wanted to be clear that the psychiatry has the expertise to do such supervising. I think they also limited, I can't remember if the bill barred use of, I think it barred use of off-label medications.
Okay.
So for example, like off-label would be something like Benadryl, right? Where its typical purpose is for allergies, but you may use it for like anxiety reduction or something like that. So I think I'm not sure that those are included, but I do know controlled substances are not included. So Ativan, clonazepam, the PAMs, those wouldn't be
Excluded.
those would be excluded. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the ADHD medications and stimulants are also excluded.
Right. If they're in chapter 329, controlled substance, then they're not going to be acceptable for prescribing.
Okay, and I think that there was also an age range that they
Yeah.
had to be 18 and above, and but below a certain elderly age too.
Let's look at the. So I got you guys a copy here, fresh. Dr. Stern, I added it in the OneDrive, the CD1 version of the bill.
Thank you. I'll take a look.
Okay, so what we have now is what was actually all included,
This is
right?
This is what was passed, yes. This is also a Sessions Act, so it will not go on to 465. So we won't see a change to our chapters, because this is meant as a temporary bill that has an expiration date, right? So typically for that, they use Sessions Acts. They're not tied to any HRS chapter. Well, that's not true. They're tied to the chapter, but not actually incorporated. Okay, so let me try and find the, so the purpose of the act, according to this final bill, right, is to establish a 3-year pilot program to allow qualified psychologists under the supervision of a supervising physician or psychiatrist to prescribe certain psychotropic medications for the treatment of mental illness to patients between the ages of 18 and 65 who are under the psychologist's care at a federally qualified health center located in the county of Kauai or county of Hawaii. And then it also requires SHPTA to submit a report to the legislature to determine whether the pilot project should be expanded and be permitted. So
Who's on SHPTA? Who are the people who serve on that advisory group,
yeah, you could
health planning group?
put in the new version.
I'm just curious mostly.
So yeah, the state health plan. You want to know some info about them?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and who?
Yes, please.
Yeah, who?
Since they're it looks like they're the overseeing agency.
Yeah, so SHPTA is the purpose of SHPTA is to promote accessibility for all the people of the state to quality healthcare services at reasonable cost. To accomplish this purpose, SHPTA functions are to administer the state's Certificate of Need or CON program, serve as staff in the preparation, revision, and implementation of state's health services and facilities plan, conduct studies and investigations regarding the causes of healthcare costs, promote the sharing of facilities or services by healthcare providers to achieve economies of scale and restrict unusual costly services, coordinate health planning activities and determine health needs of the state. So it's probably falling under that final bullet there. Maybe some of the other ones, but
And how many people comprise that? I mean, is there any representation of mental health? I guess really that's my
so there
my
are
question.
SHPTA has advisory councils, which the governor appoints to, and Senate confirmation. So it's basically the same as you guys, the board members.
Mhm.
Same process.
Also, the agency members are same process as us, in which they are
The advisory councils are.
advisory, okay, but other than that, the agency itself is a state-run agency. Okay.
So there is the Council for Statewide Health Coordinating. There's the Certificate of Need Review Panel. There's also Hawaii County Sub-Area Health Planning Council, Hawaii County Sub-Area Health Planning Council, Tri-Isle Sub-Area Health Planning Council, which includes Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. Honolulu Sub-Area Health Planning Council and West Oahu and Windward Oahu planning councils. Each advisory committee or council appears to be comprised of at least 5 members up to looks like around 10 or 11. So there's nothing specific stated in here with regard to mental health councils. However, I'm assuming that's probably incorporated in the whole broad duties that they have, right? If it's statewide health coordinating council, like But these are questions, if you would like, I can I do need to reach out to them about this pilot project. So if there's any specific informations you would like to know about them or about the plans that they have, do you know, please.
I may be reaching here, but we have always had this mental health and substance abuse council as part of adult mental health division. And that's, I think, in the governor's appointed council too, which might be good to include in the conversation and have at the table as stakeholders. I think they're the ones who keep track of the mental health and needs of mental health and substance abuse needs. Although substance abuse is not included in this particular legislation, mental health is, and so I think that's why it came to my mind.
I mean, you guys can always ask questions of them, but as far as the bill itself, it's already established and formed. So there wouldn't be inclusions of anyone. I mean, you could always request some of these precedents at your own meetings in your discussions with your, like, for example, one of the major things you're going to have to do is promulgate rules for this. So
Right.
if you need information from them, you can always request that they come to a meeting or have a rep. You can do things like that. But as far as like saying, we're going to have you in here and forming it, I think that's already happened. It's already it's shaped.
Yeah, I guess I need to find out, or establish what's in our lane, you know, for us, what are our responsibilities? 3 years passes by really quickly. Our responsibilities, we stay in our lane, but how do we coordinate it with those that are acting, you know, restrictive authority? And, you know, how we go about approving them for the different islands, you know, what's our process?
Right.
And who do we report to?
Right. Well, when you read the bill, Board of Psychology has a significant role, but I wouldn't say it's a leadership role, right?
Right.
So that would be shipped up. So it would be more like I should ask them what they need from us. Obviously, the bill states that the board is in charge of promulgating rules for the purposes of the bill. The other two things is you have to approve the education standard, basically, of the
Right.
applicants. You would also have to choose the exam to approve the exam.
Okay.
So it's very similar to what you do right now for your normal licensure.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's really your wheelhouse, is the applicants for this project.
Okay.
And not like managing like how they're coordinating their schedules and all that. That's not neither here nor there.
But I think we then need to be familiar with the other states that have prescriptive authority in terms of what their criteria are, you know, in terms of evaluating, right? For those to give them that authority to practice. And I think we have to also look at APA's psychopharmacology, you know, certificate in on what they're promoting.
Yeah. And actually, testifiers included a prescribing psychologist out of New Mexico.
Okay.
So I can maybe reach out to them in New Mexico because they were happy to provide a lot of information. So I can always do that.
Okay. Great. And then what's the timeline? So, you know, what comes first? I mean, do we work on all of this simultaneously in which we produce it, or, you know, what comes first? And what's the timeline and
Well, right now the bill's been enrolled to the governor,
Mhm.
right, to sign.
Yeah,
So he's still going through his.
his less than, I think
List
it's
of-
July, right?
Yeah.
That's his deadline.
So we do have that to consider. However, I think I had discussed with our DAG, Jordan, about whether or not the rule promulgation is required prior to accepting applicants for the pilot project, or if it was meant as a way to prepare for a permanent, like reporting a permanent, you know, which would anyway go into 465. So that was my question to him. Did you guys spoke?
Yeah, so that's something I think there's a legal issue we probably should discuss. So if you folks wanted to move into executive session to talk about that.
Okay, can I make a motion for us to move to executive session for further discussion on this? Can I have a second? to discuss about relating to psychologist SB 847.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? We're muted in there earlier.
Okay. Was there anything in addition to be discussing in open session about SB 847? If not, let's move on to the other bills on school psychologists. Could our EO please report on that one?
Yeah, so HB 1889 may display past crossover. I think that was probably the last time we were here, it was in that process of crossing from House over to Senate. It went through it ended up in the Education Committee. And it was at that committee that it was deferred. At the hearing for the bill, it was kind of the typical arguments that were going on as far as like the reasons for it, to basically find a home for school psychologist regulation. And the working group included the School Psychologists Association, the DCCA, the Department of Education was the lead on the working group. And the board itself was asking for HPA representation because 465 was one of the intended homes of school psychologists, right? So the argument that I brought on your guys' behalf to the ledge was to state that if the intention is to include school psychologists in 465, then we do believe that the association should be involved as a party that has vested interest in that chapter. So I don't know if the legislature was really concerned with that part of things. From that hearing, it seemed more like Senator Kim was more concerned with the numerous number of specialists that are housed within or getting funding through the DOE. And I think she made a remark, something about simplifying things. So I'm not sure if that related to the deferral of this bill. But it seemed that her concern was the numerous types of specialists for one single child, and that being a crowded space. There are times when I don't know what happens in a hearing. I had assumed this was going to keep moving forward, but it's died. I don't know what that means for next year.
I have my suspicions. Can I share? So and this is executive session. So
No, we're
No,
not.
it's
no,
open
we're not.
session.
We're not. Okay. As in
We're out of
open
it.
session, I can share that I think that this is a decision to delay. And I think it's a delay because I think the Department of Education is trying to figure out about that position, about a position of a school psychologist and what, given a lack of scope of services in their efforts to get legislative connection, licensure, that they may phase that position out and bring back psych examiners, because to this point, the school psychologists were only doing assessments, just doing testing. And because of the limited scope of their service within the Department of Education, I think that they feel like that's not meeting the need that they have, which is to address other kinds of issues beyond testing. And so I think this is a chance for the DOE to kind of work out some of its internal decision-making about positions and scopes of services within the DOE. And that's what caused this to be delayed.
Okay.
Or deferred, I should say.
Okay.
But those are the only bills that were moving forward after the last meeting.
But now that one is dead.
That was dead,
Right?
yeah.
Okay,
Is
well,
this
probably
the
be coming up
First
again.
year of the biennium for ledge?
I think this year they're dead, the ones, it
This
doesn't
is
roll
second-
over. Yeah.
Okay, so next year is starting a whole new biennium for the ledge. So this is dead. It'll just have to
Start
be.
again.
Yeah.
Can we take a recess back and break?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay, let's take a recess. I'm not gonna move for that. I'm just gonna move.
Thank you. I'll do the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's muted.
What is their number for the bathroom?
3-4.
Yeah, 3-4. 3-4.
Yes.
3-4. That's it. Okay.
All right, I don't have this one.
Or recess.
Are we live still?
Not on 11.
Okay.
I'm gonna make sure.
Is it 3-4 for the men too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chair.
Okay. We are now back in session and moving on to the next agenda item, temporary permits. Can our EO please cover this?
So this is an ongoing item from the last meeting. I think Dr. Scanlon also had information that he was working on. So since he's not here today, I mean, I'm not sure there's much to report for temporary permits this time. I do think that I need to get in touch with California as our closest neighbor state. And also probably the source of the majority of our temporary permit requests. That one, to get an idea of how their temporary permit system works, if it works and functions for them. Because they have, as you know, an exemption that allows someone to practice, I think, up to 30 days. I don't know if there's a report to the board that needs to happen, but there is a grace period, right? That's meant to deal with, like, say, if somebody's just vacationing for like a week and they need
California,
yeah.
they recently changed it.
Oh, they did.
They used to allow 30 days without applying to the board. And so I think as of January 1st, 30 days, it has to be consecutive days. It cannot be spread out in the calendar year. And you actually have to apply for a permit for that. Prior to that, you didn't need to apply.
Interesting. Okay.
Thank you,
Which makes-
June.
Yeah, which makes it very difficult for Hawaii students then moving to California, right?
That means it excludes being able to provide support for students who go to college because it has to be consecutive days.
So in other words, if you apply and you pay for the permit for the temporary psychology licensure, then from the day that you have to indicate the day that you will start. And so it can only be 30 days, like 1 month, which really doesn't help.
Is there
If a student goes to, let's say, UCLA, right? Because they probably need more support than 1 month
Right.
or consecutive days.
Is there a cap on the number of times you can request a temporary permit for that purpose?
I don't know if there's a cap, but
Okay.
I guess you could keep paying and applying. I don't know whether the board will approve it.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
A number of us think it's moving backwards. And we're not sure why they made that change.
I mean, I can't speak for California, but in responding to inquiries on the board's email, the majority of the time we're seeing people requesting for a temporary period of like 1 week, 2 weeks because of vacations, not necessarily school. Every once in a while, I'll get a psychologist asking if they could follow a student, like a college student that's going to UH or something. And we'll provide that in, what they'll need to do. Usually it's gonna, the way our system's devised, it's gonna be a license. Because our temporary permit is only good for 90 days. And we do maintain that as a consecutive 90 days.
Okay. And so in Hawaii, can they apply past the 90 days for the second one?
They can request an extension of up to another 90 days, but no more than 180 days in a consecutive year.
So 6 months.
So yeah, you get 180 for a temporary permit, up to 180 for temporary permit per year.
So that means inherent in that definition is the idea that this individual is supposed to transition to services within the state that they're residing and should transition to a new therapist and then maybe transition back to their regular therapist if they go home. Is that kind of what this legislation indicates?
I would have to go and look at the legislative history of when it was actually enacted to see if that was part of the reasons, which I can do. I don't know how much I can find because I think it's been there for quite some time. But what about APA standards of practice? What would the standards of practice say there? You also have in your rules a standards of practice. So I believe in there is parameters for how you move a patient from one to another practitioner and other parameters as well. But that's in the rules you guys have.
I guess I'm moving towards a different kind of a direction here, and that has to do with SIPAC, right? So California and Hawaii are two non-SIPAC states. in which this issue doesn't happen for not for SIPAC states because you can practice in another state and they don't have restrictions on it. So maybe I think the way things are going to be handled is SIPAC versus non-SIPAC states have to have their own kind of way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was always interested in understanding if it was possible is if you guys had a temporary permit for those who hold the compact privilege, but we aren't a part of compact. So like, for example, if say someone is a compact member, and they can show that they are current and there's no issues, right? That they could show that certification and that would be what's needed for a temporary permit here. I don't know of any state that's doing it that way yet, like an interface with the SIPACT, like that, but it would be interesting to know if the board could do something like that. Because the major thing that happened this ledge session with SIPACT, right, was that it was clearly noted that the requirements for SIPACT are less than what you require here in the state. And you've also noted that you do not want to decrease those standards. So the reason I think that the legislature maybe killed that bill was primarily that your guys' requirements for the Board of Psychology are not equivalent to the compact. And the compact can't be changed. So that would mean you would have to change and reduce your requirements. Like, for example, I think they are only required, they require less than 1,900 hours for their
I don't know
internship.
what it is, whether it's 15 or 16.
I'm guessing it's whatever the APA standard is. So I think it's down to like, was it 1,500 now or
15
something?
or 1600.
So what was being argued at the ledge was that you would have people who are not located in Hawaii having an easier access to practice in Hawaii than those who are getting licensed with us. So it would push everyone into compact unless you reduce the requirements or whatever. Basically, you have to be competitive with the compact. So I think that was one of the things that killed the bill as well. So there's other things going on with other compacts,
I
but
think there was cultural consideration.
there's other things like that too. Yeah, sure. But I think the major force was that you would have a lot more people not
The equivalency for criteria.
housed in Hawaii coming in through like Rula or whatever these online psychology therapy things, So, it's like a double-edged sword. You have access to psychology and our psychologists through Compact in a more robust way. And sure, there's access, but who's actually providing those services into Hawaii? Is it Hawaii-based psychologists or is it all out-of-state folks or something like that? So, I'm not sure if it will be introduced next year. I'm not sure. I was asked directly by Representative Takunuchi if the board was going to support this IPACT anytime in the future. And I couldn't really answer that question because it's a future question. But I did note that until this issue of hours is remedied and stuff, I don't know where it could go. So that's kind of where it's at. But referring back to the temporary permit convo, I mean, it still would be interesting to know if we could say use that as a expedited process of screening someone for a temporary practice here in Hawaii. And then going back to the inquiries that come into the board email, they're usually around vacations, following their patient on vacations. So it's usually no more than 3 months.
Is it also forensic reasons? People wanting to do evaluations for a court case?
Yeah, so that's another unclear area related to temporary permits. So there is an exemption for expert witnesses. But it's not clear if that exemption would include evaluations and assessments as well, because that's considered the practice of psychology.
Right.
And so that's kind of been a gray area with that exemption. It kind of depends on the needs of that defense or prosecutor and their witness, so expert witness. So typically people will not, they'll either get licensed or they'll find an exemption through like federally contracted work or something like that, through the Fed court system, for example. But they won't do a temporary permit because it's basically like applying for a full license and requires all the documents and stuff. So it's not quick. And I think that's the major thing that really hinders your guys' temporary permit program, if you call it that program, is that it's not a quick process.
Okay, so are you suggesting or proposing certain kinds of changes here?
I'm just trying to give you guys the
Modernize
breadth of
the
options that you got. You guys have a lot of options, so I think I just suggest looking into all of those.
Okay, I guess define looking into for people to contemplate it more, to
Sounds like creating another pig,
research.
a separate pig for this purpose.
Yeah, or you could have just a member take this on. I mean, I think Dr. Scanlon was looking a lot at this. So, I mean, I could always talk with him and work with him, and then
Or is someone else interested? Because I know that he's also taking a deep dive into the laws and the rules and regs and looking at all of that, because I reviewing the documents in which he was asking a lot of questions and had and marked up some possible edits already.
okay.
He likes to do his thing, man. To be honest, he really rocks on his own. He doesn't need any help. But I would ask him if he'd like some help, but there's a board member available. And so we have somebody who's there to help him if he'd like the support.
And is there someone else that is also interested in this area that?
Sure, I can help him. if he's-
Okay.
Thank you.
So I can talk with Dr. Scanlon and Dr. Takeda about temporary permits and then give them any information they need or, supplies, stuff like that.
Okay, and if anybody else wants to continue looking at the rules and regs and the laws right now, that's in our file that's been circulating. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, anything else in that area? Okay, let's move on to the next item, administrative rules, relating to psychology. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss about that?
I mind asking for by testimony.
Okay, is there any public testimony on that, that agenda item, administrative rules?
No public testimony, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so for several reasons, the agenda item administrative rules was included, obviously because of SBA 47. Promulgating rules is going to be one of your duties for that. So there's that, but then there's just the ongoing conversation you guys have had about the requirements for an internship, itemized, and also postdoc. So right now, the requirements for your application only require you to indicate the date range of your supervision, the hours, and whether your supervisor is qualified to be your supervisor. So either through licensure or holding like ABPP, diplomat, etc. So when it comes to applications, the board really has to look at what we call like a summary, which is a little bit more subjective than, say, what you would find out of California. For theirs is like a checklist that certain things were met during your internship and postdoc, that the board wishes to be in place for your training. Typically, this is designed off of APA standards, right? What needs, or APPIC for the requirements of internship and postdoc. But that is not in your rules and laws right now. So there's no content to the internship and postdoc requirement. It's just the parameters, right?
I think there's more for internship than it is for postdoc. For example, postdoc doesn't even specify the number of supervised hours during, for their training, or that it has to be, supervision on site, or whether there's additional training that's available to them besides besides the supervision. It doesn't specify.
Yeah, and so it says just basically that it has to be in the field of psychology. And so we have like the practice of psychology defined, and so that's kind of our guidance. When somebody asks, I would send them that definition. Practice of psychology, which is pretty robust in your 465 chapter, but yeah.
Okay, so are you suggesting that we take a deeper dive into looking at it and seeing whether, well, I guess the question is, have there been any difficulties so far with it lacking that kind of additional itemization?
I think, and you can stop me if I'm wrong, but I think the applications you guys see typically are abiding by a clinical or counseling psychology program. But in instances where you might have like a school psychologist, for example, that's when an internship and postdoc summary can be maybe problematic, because they have a different set of criteria for their internship and postdoc than, say, a clinical or counseling to some degree. And so I think that when you guys see a school psychology degree come through, it raises flags, not because there is any issue with them, but it's that you need to take a better look at this to make sure that they're still meeting what would be considered the requirements. So yeah, I mean, other times, another example of when this can be issues is for the regionally accredited university programs, because they're not APA accredited. It's also, the internship has to be approved by that university, for example, but we don't have any language in here that says that, like that the university has to have approved your internship, for example. So someone could technically go into a doctoral program that's regionally accredited, not APA accredited. And it's a program where there's no internship provided by the university, so it's their role to go get that for themselves, right? And so what parameters and guidance do they have for Hawaii for that? Very minimal information. So there would be no guidance for those types of applicants, for example. They're not necessarily the majority, but I would state that those residents of islands like Big Island or Kauai, Maui, who have a hard time leaving their island to go to a doctoral program, who are doing remote programs like through California Southern University or something like that, who have the issue of how do I meet the internship requirement? And I don't really have a lot that I can give them, right? It's here's the requirement, and that's what you got to do. Then they ask, how do I do that? I don't have that guidance. It's not our wheelhouse, because the statutes and rules are silent on that. So those are kind of the times when it becomes more problematic.
So it's not, we don't have anything that says that this will be an anything, at least.
No. Section 7 states that you have to have completed a postdoctoral experience, and I think it'd better be APA accredited, or also it can be a training program housed in a health service psychology program. It's very like convoluted, but it's alluding to an internship. So I would suggest looking at section 7. Yeah.
a question for you. Just in my mind, I'd like to break it up into chunks. So one chunk is pre-doc and one chunk is post-doc. So the pre-doc chunk is mostly managed by the fact that if they went to an APA accredited program, you're covered because that program meets APA requirements and therefore internship is a done deal and you can just check the box.
Right.
So what you're talking about is examples where that doesn't apply and they're non-APA accredited, correct?
Yeah.
And so for them, we do have to have admin rules to clarify and organize that group of people.
Correct.
And we have other states that are doing the same thing, and we have others we can use. Can we use AI, for example, to put this together? Is that something we would be permitted to do?
I put what together?
Put together a checklist, a checkbox of the requirements that would be necessary to be an adequate training program.
I see. I think you guys have the APIC standards.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do, and I think that those are more than satisfactory.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be a matter of just like converting that into like a form and then
Okay.
rules as well. Yeah, so like the rules we'd need to create rules from those standards.
Mhm.
There are certain types of ways to create rules in the language and the AGs help us with that. So it's more just you guys have to find out, I want that requirement, I want that requirement, I want that requirement. Now, AG, please put that into the language of rules. And then we try to massage it together, right? And that's the whole rulemaking process. So typically a board will go section by section and just go through. As you may or may not know, the rules haven't been amended for probably about 30 years, almost 30 years.
Yeah, I think it is.
So
Last time was Gina Dare Leland.
I think the copy of the copy of the copy has made them really hard to read. But,
Well, why us? I'm kidding. Why not us is the question I have to ask.
so yeah, there is maybe some. outdated
Why
information.
this year versus 10 years from now?
No, why not this year, right?
Okay, being that we're tackling so much.
So it might behoove the board to go section by section and get the whole thing looked at, but that doesn't mean you have to generate all the rules at once. So for example, if we need to create rules for this 847 bill, you can create a rule package just for that. Then you can create another rule package for working out all the standard things like internship, postdoc, and stuff like that. If you want this to move forward without being affected by other amendments in the chapter, right? Because the process starts with you guys approving what's going to be amended. And then from that point on, that package goes forward through the whole process. So you can't add more in and out.
Okay.
So
Okay, you're saying that we have to have all the proposed changes before it goes forward.
if you wish to do all the proposed changes, but if you want to just take some of them that you know are done,
Yeah.
you can just take those and move those forward.
Well, but, okay, but to move it forward means, what's the process for?
Yeah,
that?
so initially it would be the board promulgates them, so creates them.
Right,
They
okay,
approve them.
right,
Then it would go on from that process to it's a very long, many step process, but it will basically start with us, with AG, to make sure that the language is legal, right? And then it moves on from there to different entities, like the Legislative Reference Bureau. It'll go through the small business.
okay,
Is it committee?
I think regulatory, small business regulatory
Yeah.
board or something.
It's a board, so the
Okay.
small bit, what they're making sure is that there's like no kind of, I don't know, like antitrust issues or something like that, right? And that's normally what they would do, something like
They
that.
just look at the impact on small business. when
Right.
Okay.
Promulgating the rule.
so realistically, all these steps would take what, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Because I'm trying to figure out whether to make it realistic and achievable.
Right.
Okay, being that there must have been some kind of reason that it's been untouched for 30 years. Okay,
Well, the process does take some time.
right.
I can't really give you a standard.
Right,
but generally speaking, it could be 2 years
right.
to
Okay.
get through that entire
Right. And
process.
so to get through it, let's say, ideally it would be 2 years. Sounds like more or less of a 3 years plus deal. Is it better to really kind of like do a total overhaul or just take a look at it and say, what are the highest priority areas that we should concentrate on and get that done, because that is not up to date or it's antiquated or so much has changed in the last 30 years that we should address these things. And then that might be more doable and then go through the process, right? So I'm asking, do a whole scale thing, which I'm not sure how it can move.
I have a suggestion about that. I love your comment, and it's dovetailing off of your comment, June. It just struck chord for me to consider this an option, which is we start with the top priority one as indicated by the biggest impact. So we have to adopt rules specifically for, and I would say prescriptive authority legislation would be our top priority. And then so we just do that, but we recognize that we set goals and targets that are reasonable for that piece. And then have it on a rotating schedule so that you have 3 or 4 pieces that need to be done. And then you have the timeline in which the board is going to tackle it. So we force ourselves to set goals as a board. It transcends any individuals on the board and allows us to actually have a plan moving forward to address the issue.
Jeff, were you bringing up prescriptive authority because we need to come up with something for the pilot study?
I think so, yeah. But I think the associate licensure is even more pressing.
Yeah. I think that we haven't even discussed that. It's on the agenda, associate licensing.
Right. So I guess my point being, as a board, we have to prioritize with the assistance of the EO and the AG, and then and others, and then we put it into a spreadsheet and a timeline spreadsheet, and we start, attacking it like that as a system.
Vice Chair, were you asking if administrative rules would be required for the provisional?
Yes, that's part of. I'm sorry, that's embedded in my comment. Yeah.
Okay. Right now, it's going to function without any change to rules. It's still functionable, but it does go back to that question of the internship and postdoc sessions haven't been updated for 30 years, and they don't include specific requirements within those internship and postdoc. So whatever you do change would affect both the associate license or the provisional license and the standard license.
Are you suggesting that would be prioritized? I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I'm not, I think you guys should decide what's prioritized or not. I think it's a good idea that to focus only on a package that has to do with 847, because if you're going to be held up pushing that forward because you can't decide what the requirement should be for something that's not related to that in a rule package, then you're slowing down that thing. So you can do just like work on that package, right? And then at the same time, you're also working on your other bigger one that would basically revise the rules for 1698. The big issue is you're going to have to make sure that package that's going through for your prescriptive authority doesn't contradict with the new one. But that's not something that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Well,
or unmanageable because we have AG and me and.
yeah, I mean, I think if we work on 847, because it only has 3 years, in for the pilot study. And I don't think it would contradict with what's existing because there is nothing existing now for prescriptive authority for psychologists. But in addition to that, I would really hope that we take a closer look at internship and postdoc requirements because the postdoc, I mean, the associate's licensing, that's July. That's coming up, and there's a lot of questions about that, and I don't even know how to answer some of that.
So as just a point of clarification, the June meeting will be that'll be the major focus of the June meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
So right now, there's nothing needs to be done within the rules for the associate psychologist provisional license. So that is still rolling out. I think we're going to start opening applications around the 1st of June. And then that gives people a month to be ready for the start date, which is July 1st.
okay. The reason I asked is that there's going to be some kind of town hall meeting or some kind of meeting of, for the, masters, I guess, level people, and there are going to be questions about the associate psychology, provisional license too, so. I can't remember when the date was, but I think it's the beginning of June.
June 3rd or June 4th, I think.
So I think that comes before, is that before our next meeting?
Yes, it is, because I think June
Yeah,
19th.
so it's sort of like,
I haven't got an email request with
Yeah.
him.
okay.
If they do that though, I'm open.
Are you open? Okay, okay. I have I can try to attend, but I might be doing stuff, but. Okay, if you're gonna make appointment to, and that would be, I know they're going to be starting.
Yeah, I mean, barring my schedule, issues, then, yeah, I'm happy to help provide the best information that we can.
Okay, yeah, because there are a lot of questions that are coming up about that, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, in terms of whether it's all postdocs have to be, abide by this temporary license, only those that are going to be part of a center under supervised psychologist in which they're asking for funding, all of that.
Yeah,
Reimbursement.
there's a clear difference between those other two professions and your psychologist.
That, yeah, and.
So
that's
they
what
don't have an
said.
exemption, you guys do.
Right.
So that would be the clear thing to go at that town hall. And that's unfortunate for them, but it's better for you guys.
Right.
But that allows you guys to look at the rules from a standpoint that there's no difference between the postdoc provisional license holder and the full license. Unless you guys want to change that with regard to the requirements that you have to meet. So, and most of the requirements are all teased out in the rules. So as you know, the section 7 is general and the rules expand upon that. So really, if you're going to be doing the work of requirements, it's going to be in the rules.
Yeah, and I guess they probably need to be informed that just because they have this temporary associate license, and they can, I don't know whether then they can bill insurance, but it's up to insurance companies whether they come up with some kind of reimbursement schedule that's commensurate to their training. And so DCCA has nothing to do with the insurance and reimbursement, but,
Right.
But
it would with regard to the requirements for the provisional license and the full license. And that would be through the rules. Right.
Okay, so that's why it's so complicated. Okay.
Rule revision is very difficult because it's like computer logic. If you change one section, it may or may not affect another section. So you always have to constantly be working with everything. That's why deep diving in the rules is actually a good thing. So going section by section together, is a good thing. Especially when you guys have such a whole chapter. If it was just one section, that needed updating, it's a lot easier than like an entire revamp. That's a tall order. So I think it is a good idea that you guys separate out the 847 needs and then your overall overhaul.
Okay, is there some sort of like consensus that we're gonna focus on 847? And get that done and maybe, take a deeper dive into all of the rules and, as well as, people can take a look at the internship and postdoc. That would be.
I think it needs to be done piecemeal, only because I can't help but think that if I'm one of these other councils or boards and I get a stack of stuff, it's going to take me a lot longer to process it than if I get a small little thing that I have to process and get off my plate.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that's been brought up multiple times, I've been asking, I think I've been asking the board to consider it, is a quantitative checkoff list for the internship and postdoc verification so that it doesn't require your deliberative knowledge.
So,
And
so that they can download that and then they can.
And you can also, it helps better for a delegation if you're going to allow the EO to approve applications because it doesn't require your deliberative knowledge.
Right,
So
right.
it could reduce
Summary from the
Right. So
supervisor.
it could reduce waits for applicants because they're not having to wait for a board meeting. And then if they're deferred at a board meeting, wait till the next board meeting. So it could reduce that to folks who have disciplinary action in other states or a criminal conviction. Those would be the applications typically that would come if you had a robust delegation to approve standard apps. Right. So that's one thing we can't really do right now because there's no criteria.
Mhm.
There's no qualitative, not qualitative, quantitative criteria for the requirements. They're all kind of qualitative.
I'm not sure I understand the distinction you're creating between quantitative and qualitative. Does that
Yeah,
mean-
so the summary in my mind is like a qualitative thing. So it's a first person description of what someone did. So I don't have deliberative knowledge to really know if that's correct or not.
Got it.
But if I had a criteria of they have to have done this, they have to have done this, they've had to have done this, and the supervisor attests that they did that,
Mhm.
then there's really no need for me to consider what they did or did not do. They met the requirements. And
I
that's
just my comment is the subtlety on the distinction of using quantitative to describe that because that's not quantitative. But I would say that would be checklist. That would be a checklist.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Descriptive knowledge.
Descriptive. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just trying to use that qualitative, quantitative description to make a difference. But I
got
get
it.
sorry about that.
Okay, so now is it clearer or muddier? Okay, so we're going to create a pig to discuss the part about the prescriptive, right? Okay.
Creating a quantitative checklist, basically. That's
So,
going to be the job of the pig. Is that correct?
yeah, so the permitted interaction group would be up to 2 people. That's under quorum, right?
Right.
Wait, no, we got 3.
But we can only have 2, right? Or can you have 3 on the page?
It has to be under quorum.
Yeah. Can,
Quorum is 4,
You have
right?
7. You guys have 7 seats,
less than a quorum.
so it'd be 3.
Most boards just use 2 because
Yeah.
Required to get 2 people together?
it's easy,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, 2 is a minimum. Obviously. You could have 1, I guess, but
To talk to themselves?
so it'd involve at least
enjoyable.
3 meetings. So it would be this one to establish the pig, right? It would be a second one to report, but not discuss. So you're only doing a report. And then the third would be to do a vote on any kind of resultant information from the pig. So they don't have to be consecutive meetings. They can be spread out as long as the pig is doing the research, right? Like AG said, you will likely have to define the parameters of that pig, so what they will be doing. And then with the parameters and the identified people, then you can make your vote to form the pig.
Okay, but the pig has to be established outside of here, in here.
Right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he's just saying when you establish it, figure out who's going to be on it, and then what their scope of their authority is.
Okay. So.
I thought I handled that part a little bit. The latter part of establishing that the role or the mission of the pig of its scope is to create this checklist. To make it administratively easy for the EO not to have to deliberate and to be able to determine if one meets requirements on an internship and postdoc. I think it would be to do
Just for
both.
847.
Oh,
though.
this
Oh,
is just for
sorry.
the, yeah.
Right. Prescriptive authority. That's right.
So this one's just to
Determine.
prepare the rules that the statute requires the board to have to implement this program.
Okay. So can I just ask who might be interested? You are?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interested in doing that too. Is that two enough? But do we need is there a third person that's interested?
Two is fine.
Okay.
Just need a motion, a second, and a vote.
And then what you're
Okay.
gonna be doing. So these,
Okay, can we have a motion to designate Sherry and I in terms of being
Mhm.
members of the PIG?
Okay.
Okay,
And then the purpose.
and
the
the
purpose of-
purpose is to establish
work on
rules
the
connected-
rules, yeah.
the rules connected to 847.
SP 47, okay.
Yeah, which would include reviewing any materials or consulting with stakeholders as necessary.
Okay. What our AG just said.
So moved.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any objections, abstentions to that? Okay, hearing none. Okay, it's passed.
Okay.
All right. Okay, move on to the next one, applications. Okay. Okay, do we need to move, to go into executive session to discuss the applications? Can someone move to go into executive session for that purpose?
To go into executive session.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Any objections or abstentions to moving to executive session to discuss applicants? Okay, hearing none. It's approved.
Just give us 1 minute to switch over.
All right.
He's actually the co-founder.
We're good. Okay, open session, we are addressing applications. And first is the ratification of approved applications. Do we want a separate motion to approve that one?
You could probably do every one of them,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
all together.
And, okay, for A, B, and B for all the applicants that are listed, can we have a motion to approve those applications?
Motion to approve applications.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
And then.
Okay, are there any objections or abstentions to approving the approval of these applications? Okay, hearing none, the applications are approved.
That will include the rat list, right?
Yes, all of
Okay,
it.
you said A, B, and, okay.
Do you want him to know?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
So it should be noted that applicant under B, applicants for review, number 1, Dr. Gabriel. I'm knowledgeable about Dr. Gabriel, but it did not affect my deliberation on and consideration of her application.
Okay, so I think we have covered all the agenda items. And our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, June 19th. Does it seem like we have a quorum for that meeting?
You guys mind trying to get that squared away here? Yeah. You're good?
Are we good? Okay,
I think we already went over this in emails, but.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Courtney, thank you so much. Great job. I felt really easily managed.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Adjourn the meeting.
Okay, meeting is now adjourned.
I'm sorry, Christopher, you know the applicants you gave me, was there something I needed to give to you?